You begin by noticing your breath, not changing it, not guiding it, just noticing that it is already happening, already moving, already patient. Air arrives, air leaves. Between those two moments, something quiet stirs. Thoughts drift through like reflections on water, appearing and disappearing before you can fully name them. You do not chase them. You let them float. As your breathing settles, you sense that your mind is not still, but it is gentle. Feels less like a buzzing machine and more like a river at dusk. Moving, yes, but unhurried. This is where you meet your brain tonight. Not as a bundle of wires or switches. Not as a cold control center ticking away behind your eyes, but as a living river beneath your thoughts, flowing even when you forget to listen. You imagine it now, wide and dark, carrying warmth beneath its surface, quietly adapting to every stone, every curve, every change in ground beneath it. Your brain is like this, always moving, always responding. Neuroscience gives this movement a name, but you do not need to memorize it. You only need to feel it. The brain changes because it is alive, cannot help itself. Neuroplasticity is not a miracle reserved for special moments. It is not fireworks or flashing lights. It is more like water's decision to keep flowing. Even now, as you rest, tiny shifts ripple through your nervous system. Connections soften, others strengthen. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just quiet adjustment. You may have been told that the brain is fixed, set, locked into place after a certain age. But rivers have never listened to such instructions. They widen when rain returns. They narrow during dry seasons. They reroute when the land asks them to. Your brain does the same. If there has been injury, illness, or strain in your life, you may picture it like a fallen tree across the water. Something unexpected, something heavy, something that seems final at first glance. But rivers do not stop for obstacles. They pause, they gather, they find space around what blocks them. Damage in this light is not an ending. It is a bend, a redirection. The water learns. You are not asked to fix anything tonight. You are not asked to push, effort, or strive. The river is already doing what rivers do. As you breathe in, you may notice warmth in your chest. As you breathe out, a loosening behind your eyes. Small sensations easy to miss if you rush. So you do not rush. The science you are touching here is real, even if it arrives softly. Cells respond to use. Paths strengthen when they are traveled. And used routes fade, making room for others. But these ideas do not need numbers to be true. You can feel them each time a familiar thought returns without invitation. Each time a habit settles into your body like an old song. Your brain remembers pathways because it is designed to. Sometimes it remembers too well. And sometimes, with patience, it learns new ones. You smile slightly at this. Not because it is funny exactly, but because it is comforting. Also because your brain, magnificent river though it is, occasionally sends you into a room and forgets why. Even rivers have eddies. This is not failure. This is movement. You rest deeper now, carried by the idea that change does not require force. The river reshapes stone not by arguing with it, but by touching it gently over time. So tonight you touch your own mind this way, with attention that does not demand, with curiosity that does not rush. Fear begins to lose its grip when you realize that plasticity is not pressure. It is permission, the permission to change slowly, the permission to adapt imperfectly, the permission to flow differently than before. You are allowed to be a river in a changing landscape. As your breathing evens out, you may sense a distant hum in the room. A fan, the night outside, the soft electricity of being alive. All of it joins the current. Your thoughts become quieter, spaced further apart like reflections drifting downstream. You do not try to hold them. You let them pass under the low bridge of your awareness. The brain beneath them continues its work. Learning, adjusting, waiting. You feel reassured by this quiet intelligence. It does not need your supervision. It does not require urgency. It simply continues. For now, it is enough to know that the river flows even in darkness, even when unseen, even when you rest. As the night deepens, you drift closer to the river's history, toward how it learned to move at all. Your breath softens. The water carries you onward. You are still resting on the river's surface, carried by its quiet certainty. Nothing asks you to hurry. Nothing pulls you forward too fast. Your breath continues its gentle rhythm, like water touching shore, then leaving again. In this slow movement, the river invites you backward. Not into memory exactly, but into origin. You begin to sense that change is not something the brain learned later. It is something it has always known. From your very first moment, before words, before images, before direction, the river was already forming. Tiny trickles responding to warmth. Small currents turning towards sound. Soft flows shaped by touch and closeness. Learning did not arrive as effort. It arrived as response. The river learned its shape the way rivers always do. By returning. Each repeated movement smoothed the path slightly more. Each familiar sound deepened the channel it traveled through. Nothing dramatic, just quiet consistency. You feel this truth in your own body. How habits form without announcement. How certain thoughts appear more quickly than others. How familiar feelings find you before you call them. This is not a mistake. It is the river remembering where it has flowed before. Neuroplasticity here is not something flashy or rare. It is repetition made gentle. It is experience leaving a soft imprint. When water flows the same way again and again, the land responds. Edges round. Resistance softens. The path becomes easier to follow. Your brain does this not because it is lazy, but because it is wise. Effort costs energy. Smooth channels save it. You smile faintly at this. Even your nervous system appreciates efficiency, especially late at night. As you breathe in, you imagine a light rain beginning to fall. Not heavy, not cold, just enough to darken the soil. This rain is your attention. Where you place it gently and repeatedly, the ground becomes receptive. Tiny streams appear. Nothing permanent yet, just possibility. Attention does not need intensity to work. It needs presence. When you notice something again and again, the river responds by growing familiar with that direction. It is not obedience. It is recognition. This is how learning has always happened. Not through forceful command, but through quiet return. You begin to understand that every skill you carry was shaped this way. Walking, speaking, understanding faces, even calming yourself in moments like this. The river learned because it was allowed to flow. You feel reassured by the slowness of it. Nothing rushed your brain into becoming what it is. Nothing demanded perfection. Mistakes were not failures. They were water testing the edges. Sometimes the river wandered into dry ground. Sometimes it pooled where it should not have. But it learned. Always learning. You let this truth settle deeper. Learning is not a special event. It is the natural movement of a living system in contact with the world. As your breath drifts out, you notice a small sense of relief. You are not behind. You are not late. The river does not keep a schedule. It only remembers where it has been. When you practice something gently, you are not carving stone. You are moistening soil. This is why repetition matters, but pressure does not. Pressure builds walls. Repetition builds familiarity. Your brain prefers familiarity. It relaxes into it. You think of how certain thoughts come so easily, how some worries seem well-rehearsed. They are simply well-watered paths. And just as easily, new paths can be invited. Not commanded. Invited. A thought returned to with kindness. A movement practiced without judgment. A moment of calm noticed and allowed. Drop by drop, the rain works. You feel drowsier now, wrapped in the rhythm of this understanding. The river beneath you feels older than worry, older than fear. It has changed across years, decades, generations. Always responding, never rigid. You notice a quiet humor here. For something so adaptable, the brain still occasionally forgets where it left its keys. Even ancient rivers sometimes swirl in place. This makes you smile again, softly, without effort. As your breathing continues, slower now, the rain fades. The ground drinks what it needs. Paths remain. Others soften. You begin to notice your own tendencies with gentleness rather than critique. Where your thoughts flow easily, where they hesitate, there is no need to redirect them tonight. Only to notice. Noticing is already rainfall. The science beneath this moment is quiet but solid. Connections strengthen through use. They weaken through disuse. But you do not need to control this process. You are part of it simply by being alive. The river carries what returns. You rest deeper, sensing how much change has already happened without your permission or effort. Your brain learned to be you this way, and it is still learning. As the night settles further, your thoughts grow wider apart, like reflections stretching on dark water. With each exhale, the river carries you forward again, toward moments when its smooth path was interrupted, toward places where stones changed the flow. You drift gently in that direction. You arrive at a quieter stretch of the river now. The water still moves, but more carefully. Your breath follows this pace, slow and forgiving. In the dim light, you begin to notice shapes beneath the surface. Stones. Some small, some heavy enough to change the way the current moves. This is where the river meets interruption. In life, these stones have many names. Injury, illness, trauma. Moments when the body or mind does not respond the way it once did. You are not asked to relive anything here, only to understand gently what happens next. When a stone falls into a river, the water does not panic. It does not judge the stone. It simply meets it. For a moment, there is turbulence, swirling, a brief confusion of direction. Then the water learns the shape of what has changed. This is how the brain responds as well. Not with drama, but with assessment. Not with collapse, but with pause. Damage does not shatter the river. It changes the map. You breathe in slowly, allowing space for this idea. You breathe out, letting go of urgency. Neuroscience speaks softly here. When pathways are disrupted, activity does not vanish. It shifts. It looks for nearby routes. It tests alternate channels. Nothing about this is instant. Nothing about it is loud. The brain hesitates, then experiments. You imagine water meeting a stone's surface, feeling for gaps, noticing slopes, finding edges where movement is still possible. This exploration is not conscious. It is instinctive. Your brain does not ask whether it should adapt. It simply begins. There is comfort in this. Even when something feels lost, something else is already responding. You may notice a tightening in your chest as you think of damage. So you soften your breath. Longer on the exhale. The river flows more easily when it is not rushed. Some stones remain. They do not disappear. And that is allowed. The goal is not restoration of the past. It is continuity of movement. Water does not demand that the river return to an earlier shape. It only asks to keep going. You rest with this truth. No fixing tonight. No forcing. The science here does not promise miracles. Promises responsiveness. Cells communicate. Activity reorganizes. Functions may be shared, borrowed, reimagined. This is not a backup system. It is a living system behaving as living systems do. You feel your shoulders ease slightly. Even stones belong to the riverbed. Sometimes the water grows quieter above them. Sometimes it grows faster around them. Always learning. You may find a small smile here, because even in complexity, the brain remains practical. If one route is blocked, it looks elsewhere. Like water discovering a shortcut. You imagine the river at night. Moonlight touching ripples distorted by stone. Still beautiful. Still alive. Trauma and injury often arrive with fear attached. But fear is not required for adaptation. The brain does not need alarm to respond. It needs time. It needs safety. This is why you are here now. Resting. Breathing. Creating calm conditions for change. When you breathe slowly, the nervous system loosens its grip. Signals travel more freely. Exploration becomes possible. This is not poetic exaggeration. It is simple biology described kindly. You notice how water behaves near obstacles. Presses gently. It waits. It never argues. The brain behaves the same way. If a function once lived in one place, it may begin to appear elsewhere. If movement was interrupted, sensation may find a new route. Not perfectly, not immediately, but sufficiently. The river values continuity over perfection. You feel steadier now, grounded in this imagery. Whatever stones you carry, they are already known to the water. Nothing here is broken beyond movement. Movement adapts. You breathe again, slow and deep. Some stones are emotional. Memories lodge deep. Moments that change how the current feels. Even these are met the same way. With circulation. With gradual reshaping. The brain does not erase what happened. It learns how to flow alongside it. There is dignity in this process. You sense a quiet respect for the system within you. It does not abandon what is injured. It works with it. This takes patience, which the river has plenty of. You may laugh softly at this thought, because patience, for you, is sometimes misplaced. Keys go missing. Names vanish mid-sentence. Still, the river continues. As the water settles around the stone, new patterns appear. Eddies, curves, unexpected calm pockets. These are not failures of flow. They are adaptations. You let this understanding sink deeper as your thoughts slow. Fewer now, further apart. The brain beneath them remains awake, curious, testing. As the night stretches on, you sense the river responding over time. Learning the stone's outline, softening its edges. You are carried gently forward, toward the quiet intelligence of adaptation. You remain with the river, now familiar, now trusted. The water moves steadily beneath you, no longer surprising. Your breath settles into the same rhythm, slow and predictable. In this calm, you begin to notice something subtle. The river does not wait for instruction. It does not ask permission to adjust. It simply does. Where stones altered the flow, the water has already responded. Small shifts first, barely noticeable, then wider turns. New channels forming quietly along softened banks. This is the brain's instinct. Not planning, not strategy, just response. Neuroscience has many words for this, but none are necessary here. What matters is the feeling of it. Your brain is not passive after change. It is curious. It explores. Activity begins to appear in nearby regions. Functions lean on neighbors. Skills borrow space where space exists. No alarms sound. No emergency lights flash. The river prefers calm problem-solving. You breathe in, imagining the water testing a new edge. You breathe out, imagining it releasing what no longer fits. This is not effort. This is invitation. Practice in this light is not drilling or strain. It is the same gentle question asked again. Can I pass here now? Sometimes the answer is no. And that answer is respected. The river withdraws slightly. Try somewhere else. You feel reassured by this restraint. Nothing forces the water through narrow cracks. Nothing shames it for turning back. The brain learns by asking softly, over and over. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. A gentle signal repeated becomes trustworthy. A harsh signal only startles the system into guarding itself. You may notice warmth spreading through your body as you rest with this idea. A loosening in your jaw. A drop in your shoulders. Safety invites exploration. When conditions are calm, neurons respond willingly. They extend, connect, retreat, and try again. This process is quiet enough to miss if you are busy. But tonight you are not busy. You are listening. The river demonstrates patience by example. New channels do not appear overnight. They begin as damp soil, then trickles, then steady flow. You realize how often you have expected sudden change from something designed for gradual shift. The river forgives that misunderstanding. It has time. You smile faintly because your brain, flexible and adaptable as it is, still appreciates reassurance. Especially at night. Even rerouting requires rest. You breathe in again, feeling air move deep into your chest. You breathe out slowly, longer than before. The river mirrors you. And used banks begin to soften, not out of neglect, but out of efficiency. The water chooses paths that work. Nothing is wasted. Even areas that grow quieter remain part of the landscape, ready if needed. This is not loss. It is reorganization. The science here remains gentle. Functions are not locked to single locations. They are patterns of activity capable of shifting and sharing space. When one area struggles, others listen. This cooperation is instinctive. You rest deeper into the thought that your brain wants to help itself. It is not waiting for you to command it correctly. It only asks for time. You may chuckle quietly now, realizing how often effort has been misplaced. Trying harder rarely helps water flow. Opening space does. The river agrees. As your thoughts slow further, you sense the comfort of repetition without pressure. Doing something again, not to improve but to invite. A movement repeated kindly. A word practiced softly. A moment of attention returned to without judgment. This is how new routes become familiar. No cheering crowd required. No deadline. Just presence. You notice a distant sound in the room, maybe a hum or a whisper of air. It becomes part of the river's soundtrack. Everything is cooperating now. The brain beneath your awareness continues its quiet trials. Testing. Responding. Learning what works now, not what once worked. This distinction matters. The river does not mourn old paths. It honors them by moving on. You find comfort in that, especially if you have been holding on to earlier versions of yourself. Change does not erase identity. It reshapes expression. You breathe slowly, letting this settle. The night grows deeper, the water smoother. Rerouting is not a failure of the system. It is the system doing its job. You feel less need to control anything. The river carries its own intelligence. As this chapter closes, the water draws closer to you, inviting participation, not forcefully, just enough to feel. The river seems to ask a gentle question. Would you like to step in now? You step closer to the river now, not just watching, not just floating, but feeling the water around your ankles. It is cooler than you expected. Comfortable. Your breath slows instinctively, as if your body understands that sudden movements are not required here. The river does not ask you to push against it. It invites you to place your hands gently into the flow. This is where training begins. Not as effort, not as strain, but as guidance. You notice how the water responds when your hands move softly. Parts, then returns. Nothing resists. Your brain responds in much the same way. Training, in its truest form, is not correction. It is conversation. You offer a small movement. The system replies. You listen. This exchange is quiet enough to miss if you expect fireworks. But tonight, you expect nothing dramatic. You allow yourself to feel how repetition works when pressure steps aside. A single motion means very little, but a motion returned to kindly begins to leave a trace. Like water guided by open palms, the river changes direction without feeling constrained. No walls, no barriers, just suggestion. The brain understands suggestion very well. It responds to what is repeated, not to what is demanded. You breathe in slowly, letting your chest rise without effort. You breathe out, releasing tension you did not know you were holding. Somewhere inside, neural pathways notice this pattern. Calm paired with action. Safety paired with attempt. This pairing matters. When training arrives without threat, the nervous system stays open. Signals travel more freely. Adjustment feels possible. You begin to sense how small actions accumulate. Not as achievements, but as familiar gestures. Standing, reaching, speaking, noticing. Each gentle return is a drop of guidance. The river does not ask for perfection. It only asks for consistency that feels safe. You smile faintly here, because the idea of kindness as a training tool feels almost rebellious. And because your brain, wise as it is, still prefers encouragement over criticism. Even rivers sulk when yelled at. You feel warmth spreading through your arms, your shoulders, your hands. Training without force allows the body to stay relaxed. This relaxation is not laziness. It is readiness. When muscles are not bracing, movement flows. When the mind is not guarded, learning enters quietly. The science beneath this moment is simple and gentle. Patterns repeated in calm conditions are more likely to remain flexible. Stress narrows options. Ease widens them. You imagine the river again, widening slightly where your hands guide it. No sharp edges. Only smooth curves forming over time. You are not shaping the water. You are shaping the invitation. This distinction feels important. Training that demands obedience often meets resistance. Training that offers space meets curiosity. The brain leans toward curiosity when it feels safe. You breathe again, slower now. Long inhale, longer exhale. Each cycle reinforces the message. Here it is okay to try. You may think of moments in your life when trying felt heavy. Effort packed tight with expectation. Pressure disguised as motivation. The river does not recognize that language. It understands touch. It understands repetition. It understands patience. So tonight you let pressure dissolve. You trade it for rhythm. Tempt, rest, return. This rhythm is how learning stays alive. You notice how often rest is missing from ideas of training. Yet the river rests constantly. Still pools form. Eddies pause. These moments are not wasted time. They allow the water to reorganize. Your brain does the same. After gentle effort, it needs quiet to settle what was offered. Connections adjust. Noise fades. This is why rest belongs inside training, not after it. You chuckle softly at this realization, because you have rested after effort before but rarely inside it. The river nods in approval. As you continue standing in the water, you feel steadier, more balanced. Training feels less like improvement and more like cooperation. You offer the brain something to work with. It does the rest in its own time. This removes urgency from the process. There is no deadline in a river. You imagine guiding water again with open hands. The movement is slow, almost ceremonial. This is how the brain prefers to learn new paths. Slow enough to feel safe. Repeated enough to feel familiar. The idea of plasticity returns here, softer now, less theoretical. Not a promise of transformation. Promise of responsiveness. You allow this reassurance to sink in. Whatever you practice gently becomes easier to return to. Whatever you pair with safety becomes more accessible. The river keeps what feels kind. You breathe once more, deeply. Your shoulders drop another inch. Training, you realize, does not need to hurt to work. It needs to be trusted. This trust grows slowly, just like channels in water. But once it forms, it carries movement with less effort. You stand here for a moment longer, letting the idea settle. Small actions matter. Gentle returns matter. Rest matters. No single drop does the work alone. As the current strengthens quietly around you, you begin to notice what helps it flow best. Warmth, calm, patience. The river guides you onward. You are still standing in the river, water moving steadily around you. Nothing presses. Nothing pulls. Your breath moves easily now, rising and falling without instruction. With each slow inhale, warmth spreads through your chest. With each exhale, the current feels smoother beneath your feet. This is where attention appears. Not as effort, not as concentration, but as warmth resting gently on the surface of the water. You notice how the river responds when you simply look at it. Not stare, not analyze, just notice. Where your awareness lingers, the water seems to deepen. The surface grows calmer. The movement more defined. This is not imagination. It is experience. Attention does not force change. It invites it. Your brain responds differently when something is noticed without judgment. Signals organize more clearly. Activity settles into patterns that can repeat. You breathe in slowly, sensing how awareness spreads through your body like sunlight through mist. You breathe out, letting that light remain without effort. The science here is quiet. When attention returns again and again, pathways grow familiar with being used. They become easier to enter. Less effort is required. But you do not need to remember this. The river already knows. You feel this in your own mind. Thoughts you attend to gently feel closer, more accessible. Thoughts ignored without resistance drift away on their own. Attention is not gripping. It is allowing. You rest with this idea. letting it soften any urge to control your inner world. Nothing needs to be managed tonight. The river deepens naturally where the sun warms it longest. Mindfulness, in this sense, is not watching everything at once. It is choosing one place to rest your awareness kindly. Your breath, the sound in the room, the feeling of water around your legs. One place is enough. You may notice a small smile forming, because paying attention like this feels surprisingly easy, and because your brain, despite its complexity, enjoys simplicity. You chuckle softly. Even rivers appreciate being admired. As your attention settles, distractions lose their urgency. They do not vanish. They simply pass through without insisting. This is how depth forms. Where water flows calmly, sediment settles. The riverbed smooths. Clarity increases. The brain behaves the same way. When attention is scattered, activity spreads thin. When it gathers softly, it strengthens what is present. You are not asked to hold focus tightly. Tightness repels water. Instead, you let awareness rest like a leaf on the surface. Carried, not clutched. You breathe again, slower than before. Your body recognizes this state. Muscles loosen. Thoughts stretch out and drift. This calm attention tells the nervous system that it is safe to explore. No threats detected. No rush required. Learning deepens best in this space. You begin to notice something comforting. Attention does not need to last long to matter. Returning matters more than staying. Each gentle return is a signal. This matters. This can grow. The river understands repetition far better than intensity. You imagine sunlight touching the same stretch of water each day. Not brighter, just consistent. Over time, that place deepens. You feel drowsier now, wrapped in this rhythm of noticing and release. Thoughts appear further apart. Silence grows between them. The brain beneath this quiet continues shaping itself, strengthening pathways that feel safe, softening those that no longer serve. You do not instruct it. You allow it. This is quiet engineering. Nothing dramatic happens. Nothing needs to. The river prefers gradual change. You notice the sound of your breath again. Barely audible. Steady. Attention returns there effortlessly. Not because you force it, but because it feels pleasant. Pleasure guides learning more reliably than pressure. The brain remembers what feels good to return to. You smile faintly, amused by how simple this truth is, and by how often it was overlooked. Even now, your awareness may drift. That is not failure. That is movement. When you notice the drift, attention has already returned. No correction needed. This cycle is the practice. Notice, drift, notice again. Each return gently deepens the channel. You sense the river beneath you growing smoother, more predictable. Not rigid, just familiar. This familiarity is what allows flow to continue with less effort. As night deepens, attention naturally softens further. Edges blur. Warmth spreads. The brain prepares for rest and repair. You do not follow it there yet. You simply float near the surface, warmed by noticing. Attention, you realize, is already enough. Enough to guide learning. Enough to support change. The river carries this understanding forward, toward the quiet work that happens when night fully arrives. Night settles over the river without announcement. The light fades gradually, as if the world remembers how to be gentle. You feel this shift inside you too, a soft dimming behind the eyes. Your breath grows slower on its own. No instruction needed. The river knows this rhythm well. At night, the water changes its work. It does not stop. It deepens. When the surface grows quiet, movement continues beneath. Subtle, patient. This is where sleep begins to matter. You are not required to do anything now. No guiding. No noticing. Rest is participation enough. The brain welcomes these hours the way a river welcomes moonlight. Not for beauty alone, though there is beauty here, but because darkness allows repair. During the day, water responds to edges, to interruptions, to direction. At night, it smooths what the day has shaped. You imagine the river under stars. Silver reflections drifting slowly. Banks cooling. The water presses gently against its boundaries, reshaping without resistance. Your brain does this too. While you sleep, activity patterns replay softly, not as memory, but as refinement. Paths traveled earlier are revisited. Edges are adjusted. Nothing is forced. This is not work in the human sense. It is maintenance. You feel reassured knowing that change does not depend on constant effort. Some of the most important adjustments happen when awareness steps aside. You breathe in, air cool and calm. You breathe out, the body releases. Sleep does not create learning. It allows learning to settle. During rest, connections loosen and reorganize. Noise fades. What mattered gently separates from what did not. This sorting feels invisible, but it is thorough. You smile faintly at this idea, because even when you forget to rest well, the brain still tries. It works with what it has, like a river continuing its task during a cloudy night. You are safe here. The nervous system senses the quiet and lowers its guard. Muscles soften. Signals slow. This calm is not empty. It is rich. The river deepens most when undisturbed. You imagine silt settling at the bottom of the water. Particles drifting down, finding their place. The riverbed becoming smoother by morning. This is how neural pathways settle too. After practice, after attention, after gentle repetition, the day offered possibilities. The night decides what remains. You do not supervise this process. You trust it. As sleep approaches, the brain shifts into slower rhythms. Wider waves, longer pauses. These rhythms create space. Space for repair. Space for integration. You feel your eyelids grow heavier now, even if they are already closed. Thoughts stretch, lengthen, and dissolve before finishing themselves. This is not loss. It is transition. The river loves these hours. No demands. No obstacles newly arriving. Just water and time. Emotional weight softens here too. Feelings that felt sharp during the day loosen at night. The river carries them differently in darkness. Some worries dissolve entirely. Others remain but lose their edges. Your brain does not erase emotion during sleep. It rebalances it. Safety returns when rest deepens. You may feel warmth spreading across your chest or down your arms. A quiet heaviness in your limbs. These are signs of arrival. The river has reached its nighttime work. You breathe again, slower still. Each exhale longer than the one before. Sleep is not something you fall into. It is something you are carried toward. The brain prepares by lowering volume, narrowing focus, widening rhythm. Everything aligns for ease. You are not required to understand this process, only to allow it. Even now, the river remembers what it practiced earlier. The gentle attempts, the kind repetitions, the moments of attention. It brings them into the night like stones warmed by the sun. By morning, the water will flow differently around them. Not drastically, but noticeably. You chuckle softly at this thought, because change that sneaks in quietly often lasts longest. The river does not announce its progress. It simply shows it over time. Sleep is where the river learns what it can keep. Your breath continues, steady and deep, a rhythm older than thought. The surface of your mind grows smooth now, almost mirror-like. Reflections blur, then fade. The brain beneath them continues shaping itself with remarkable calm. It has done this before. Every night, you trust it more now. As the river moves under moonlight, it prepares for another day of flow. But there is no rush toward morning. For now, rest is enough. The water settles further. The banks soften. The current becomes slow and deep. By the edge of sleep, the river holds everything gently. What was practiced? What was felt? What was learned? As dawn waits quietly beyond the horizon, the river remembers what it practiced. You float back toward the surface of the river, not fully awake, not fully asleep. The water feels familiar now, like something your body trusts without question. Your breath moves slowly, as if guided by an unseen tide. Above the river, the sky begins to change. This is where emotion appears, not as something heavy or sharp, but as weather moving gently across the water. Mist arrives, then clears. Clouds gather, then thin. You notice how the river responds without resistance. It does not argue with the sky. It adjusts beneath it. This is how emotion works in the brain. Feelings are not instructions. They are conditions. When the sky is calm, the river widens. Its surface smooths. The current spreads out, exploring new space. When the sky darkens, the river narrows. It becomes careful, focused on protection rather than exploration. Neither state is wrong. Your brain learned this long before language. Safety means expansion. Threat means conservation. You breathe in slowly, sensing how your body reacts to imagined weather. Calm sky opens your chest. A storm tightens it. This response is not weakness. It is biology doing its job. Emotion does not shape the river by force. It changes the conditions under which change happens. When fear lingers, the nervous system grows cautious. Signals take fewer paths. The river prefers what it already knows. When reassurance arrives, pathways loosen. Options widen. Learning becomes possible again. This is why safety matters so deeply. Not emotional safety as an idea, but safety as a felt experience. A slow breath, a relaxed jaw, a body that senses nothing urgent is required. You notice this now. Your shoulders rest lower than before. Your breath touches deeper places. Compassion enters quietly here, not as kindness toward others, but as gentleness toward your own experience. A willingness to let weather pass without demanding control. This gentleness is not indulgent. It is practical. The brain responds to reassurance by reopening channels. Exploration resumes when protection is no longer necessary. You smile faintly at this, because being kind to yourself feels oddly efficient, and because the river seems to flow better when you stop shouting at it. Even storms have purpose. Rain nourishes the ground. Wind clears stale air. Emotion carries information, not commands. You rest with this understanding as your breath continues its slow rhythm. Feelings may still pass through you. Sadness, joy, concern, relief. They do not require action, only acknowledgement. The river remains beneath them, steady and capable. You imagine mist lifting from the water as dawn light begins to grow somewhere distant. The surface clears gradually, not suddenly. This clarity feels gentle. The brain beneath this calm reorganizes differently than it does under stress. Connections stay flexible. Paths remain open. This is why reassurance supports recovery. Why calm attention matters. Why pressure slows what patience allows. You breathe again, letting the idea settle. There is a quiet humor here too, because despite all this adaptability, the brain can still panic over small things. A misplaced word, an unfamiliar silence. Even rivers ripple dramatically when a leaf falls just right. This makes you smile, softly, without judgment. You do not need emotional perfection to support change. You only need enough safety for the river to keep exploring. Compassion provides this space. When you allow emotions without tightening around them, the nervous system listens. It relaxes its guard, permits movement. This permission is subtle but powerful. You notice how different it feels to let emotion pass instead of pushing it away. The water remains smoother, the current steadier. Nothing gets stuck. The science beneath this is simple even if it sounds poetic. Safety signals reduce tension. Reduced tension allows flexibility. Flexibility supports learning. You feel drowsier now, comforted by how little you are asked to manage. You are not here to control the weather, only to remain present beneath it. The river carries memory differently in calm conditions. What was practiced earlier settles more gently. What was difficult loses sharpness. Emotion no longer blocks the flow. It becomes part of the landscape. You rest deeper, breathing slow and steady. The sky above the river grows clearer now. Stars appear. The water reflects them softly, without effort. This reflection is learning carried forward. Not forced, not hurried, just allowed. You sense the river moving on, holding what it has gathered. Practice, rest, tension, compassion. All of it travels together now. As clarity returns, you are carried gently onward. toward reflection, toward what remains when the weather settles. You float now in a wide, calm section of the river. The water moves slowly here, unhurried, unconcerned with distance. Your breath matches this pace without effort, long and easy. This is the place where honesty lives. Not the sharp kind that corrects or criticizes, but the gentle kind that names what is without judgment. Every river has limits, banks that hold it, depths it does not exceed. These limits are not flaws. They are structure. You sense this as you rest on the surface, supported without strain. The river does not wish to be the ocean. It wishes to be itself. In understanding the brain, this truth matters. Neuroplasticity does not promise endless reshaping. Promises responsiveness within real boundaries. Some bends do not straighten again. Some stones remain exactly where they fell. And yet, the river flows. You breathe in slowly, allowing space for this idea. You breathe out, releasing the need for perfection. The science here is quiet and respectful. Adaptation does not mean restoration of the past. It means finding workable paths forward. Function replaces fantasy. Dignity replaces comparison. Your brain does not measure success by resemblance to what once was. It measures success by continuity. Can movement continue? Can communication happen? Can life express itself in new ways? Often the answer is yes. You feel something soften in your chest as you recognize this. Relief does not require false hope. It requires realistic kindness. The river does not mourn what it cannot reach. It deepens where it can. You imagine water flowing around stones it cannot move. The stone remains. The river adapts. Neither is wrong. This reframing is powerful because it removes the pressure to recover perfectly. Pressure narrows flow. Acceptance widens it. You are allowed to honor limits without giving up possibility. This balance is subtle. It lives between effort and surrender. You feel steadier here, as if the river has widened beneath you. The brain learns within constraints the way water learns within banks. Those banks guide movement. They do not stop it. Some abilities may change permanently. Others emerge unexpectedly. This is not compensation as failure. It is compensation as creativity. You smile faintly at this thought, because creativity often arrives disguised as adaptation. And because your brain, resourceful and quietly clever, prefers usefulness over ideals. Even when limits exist, learning continues. You breathe again, slow and full. Your body settles deeper into the water. Acceptance here is not passive. It is active cooperation with reality. When you stop demanding the impossible, energy returns to what is possible. The river knows this instinctively. It does not waste effort pushing endlessly against cliffs. Curves. In the brain, this means reorganizing function rather than restoring form. Different routes, different timing, different strategies, still effective. This understanding removes the sharp edge from limitation. Limits become information, not verdicts. You rest with this information as the river carries you. There is a quiet humor here too, because even without injury or illness, the brain has limits. Attention wanders, memory skips, energy fades. No river is perfectly straight or endlessly deep. Yet movement continues. You may think of moments when something felt lost. A skill, clarity, a sense of ease. The river does not deny these experiences. It simply incorporates them. What remains is not lesser. It is different. Difference is not damage. You feel a warm reassurance settle into your breathing. This chapter is not about lowering expectations. It is about placing them wisely. Science here meets acceptance gently, without hype, without despair. Plasticity offers possibility. Limits offer guidance. Together, they create stability. You imagine the riverbed now solid and supportive. The water knows where it can go. You realize that honoring limits often creates more peace than chasing endless change. Peace allows learning to continue quietly. The brain functions best when not constantly evaluated. Like water, it flows more smoothly when allowed to be. You rest deeper into this realization. Adaptation is not a consolation prize. It is a fundamental strategy of life. Every system survives by adjusting within its limits. The brain is no exception. You feel gratitude for this truth. Not dramatic gratitude, just a steady warmth. The river has carried you this far without urgency. You breathe in again. You breathe out slowly. There is dignity in continuity, in finding new ways to express what matters. The brain values function over form. It cares less about how something looks than whether it works. This practicality feels comforting. You smile softly, because perfection was never required, and because the river never tried to be anything other than moving water. As this understanding settles, reflection deepens. The water grows stiller, not stopping, just slowing. You feel the journey nearing its final stretch. The river carries what it has learned: adaptation, acceptance, possibility shaped by reality. As the water quiets, you drift into reflection, toward becoming both the river and the one who trusts it. You arrive at the final stretch of the river. The water is steady now, familiar, and yet full of quiet possibilities. Your breath moves in harmony with the flow, calm and deep. You take a moment to look around. The river has changed beneath you. It has navigated stones, softened banks, deepened in response to your attention. And you have changed with it. Becoming a river that keeps flowing does not mean perfection. It does not mean speed or constant progress. It means presence, curiosity, trust in the ongoing current. You breathe in slowly, feeling the warmth spread from your chest to your fingertips. You breathe out, letting go of tension that has quietly accumulated along the way. Your mind may recall the bends and obstacles you encountered. Moments when learning felt difficult or delayed. Moments when fear or frustration rose. The river remembers them too, not as failures, not as stones to block the flow, but as marks of adaptation. Every curve, every eddy is a testament to movement. Every pause was a signal to rest, notice, or adjust. The brain has followed this current. Neurons have shifted, connected, and tested new pathways. Not all change is dramatic. Not all change is visible. But the river carries it nonetheless. You may feel a faint smile at the thought, because even the smallest adjustments accumulate over time. And you have been present to witness them. This is how the river teaches you about resilience. Not by forcing, not by insisting, but by continuing. By offering motion itself as the teacher. You breathe again, longer now, slower. The rhythm aligns with the quiet persistence of water moving around what it cannot move through. You begin to understand your own role. You are both the river and its gentle guide. Not in control of every twist or obstacle, but present enough to notice, to encourage, to return. Change in this frame is not urgent. It is ongoing, soft, kind. The river's story continues beyond your awareness. So does the brain's. Connections reinforce and dissolve quietly, constantly, without announcement. Practice, attention, rest, emotion, all leave subtle traces. And you are part of that process simply by being, by breathing, by noticing, by allowing. There is a tenderness in this truth, a deep reassurance that transformation does not require constant striving. The water flows, you flow. You may let a small laugh escape, quiet and soft, because, after all, rivers do not worry about schedules or expectations. They move with what exists, and you can too. You imagine your inner river carrying forward the lessons of attention, patience, and gentle guidance. Every bend and stone experienced has been incorporated. Every obstacle met has shifted the current, not stopped it. The brain, like the river, values continuity. It values repeated gentle invitations more than frantic demands. You breathe in once more, feeling a sense of warmth expand across your torso. You breathe out, sensing relief and ease. Motion itself is healing. It does not require perfection. It does not require external validation. It simply requires presence. You rest in this understanding. Even if the path ahead is uncertain, the river continues. Even if the brain encounters new obstacles, it continues. You are not separate from this process. You are simultaneously participant and observer, guide and learner. Your awareness now drifts softly across the water. You may notice sensations in your body that were previously unnoticed. A gentle pulse in your fingers, warmth along your spine, the rising and falling of your chest as it mirrors the river's flow. All of this is part of the current. All of this is part of ongoing change. You may remember moments from earlier chapters. Stones in the water, small eddies forming new paths, attention resting on calm surfaces, rest settling the riverbed, emotions passing like weather. Each moment, each exercise, each breath has contributed. You feel gratitude quietly, almost imperceptibly, not as celebration, not as accomplishment, but as recognition. The river carries learning forward without fanfare. So does your brain, and so do you. You may feel your eyelids grow heavier now, even if they have already been closed. Thoughts stretch and soften. Noise fades. A gentle silence arrives. This is the place where reflection and action merge, where lessons are integrated without urgency, where the body, mind, and inner river align. You take one last deep inhale, feeling air touch every part of your lungs. You exhale slowly, letting the current move without interference. The river now flows steadily beyond your immediate perception. You do not need to follow every twist. You do not need to measure every depth. You do not need to rescue every fallen leaf. It flows. You flow. Continuity carries both of you. The brain continues quietly in the background. Neurons whisper to one another. New connections form. Paths are reinforced. Patterns that matter most settle gently. The river continues beyond the horizon of your awareness. You are part of it, but you do not control it. You are presence, attention, and breath. You rest in this gentle truth. That being allows becoming. Motion itself is enough. Your breath slows to a near whisper. Your body rests fully. Your mind drifts lightly across memories and possibilities. And the river flows on, carrying everything you have learned. Carrying everything you have practiced, carrying everything you have simply allowed to be. You are the river. You are part of its current. And together you move forward. The night stretches before you, soft and expansive. Your breath fades into stillness. The water continues its quiet journey. And in this space, the river and your brain and you all keep flowing.